Hello friends. So today I am going to discuss the one topic from botany paper 16. The title of this paper, botany paper 16, is Biofertilizers and Herbal Drug Technology. So under the heading of this title of paper number 16, Biofertilizers and Herbal Drug Technology, we are going to study 4 units. The first unit in this paper is biofertilizers. Second unit is herbal medicines. Third unit is herbal cosmetology. And last fourth unit is pharmacognosy. So today I am going to start this first unit from paper number 15, biofertilizers. So before going to start actually this different aspects of this topic by fertilizers, I would like to give shortly an introduction of this topic. So if we consider the growth and development of plant, each and every plant requires the specific conditions for their growth, development as well as yield also. So basically all plant requires proper climatic conditions as well as soil conditions or edaphic conditions, as well as all plant requires minerals. So minerals plays important role in the growth, development as well as yield of the crop plants. So plant generally take these minerals from soil. So these minerals are basically categorized into two categories, macronutrients and micronutrients. So macronutrient includes the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen or CHO, then NPK, CAMGFE, that means carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron. So these are the macronutrients which are taken by the plants from the soil in larger quantities. These macronutrients are required by the plants in larger quantities, and another requirements are also there. These elements are taken by the plants from the soil also, and they are required by the plants in very minute quantities. That's why they are known as trace elements or micronutrients. For example, cobalt is there, molybdenum is there, lithium is there. So these elements, cadmium is there. So these elements are taken by the plants in the soil also and required by the plant in very less amount. That means for the proper growth, development of the plant, in addition to adequate water, adequate quantity of nutrients, proper climatic conditions, plant requires the mineral nutrient source from the soil. So different groups of the plants which are requiring different agroclimatic conditions for their growth, development as well as yield. That means particular crop requires more water. For example, rice, it is cultivated in specific region where rainfall is more. During rainy season, generally this crop is taken. When rainfall is less, we don't see this type of crop, cultivation of this type of crop like rice. That means, for example, another crop, cotton. This cotton crop is not cultivated in high rainfall regions. It is cultivated in moderate or less rainfall regions, like as far as our Maharashtra cultivation of cotton is concerned, in our Marathwada region and Vidarbha region. Largely cultivation of crop like cotton is done by the farmers. That means agroclimatic conditions required by the plants are different. So plant needs the macronutrients, I have told you earlier, in larger quantities. Macronutrients are required by the plant, and in little quantities micronutrients are also required by the plants for its metabolic activities or metabolic processes. So soil fertility depends upon the amount of nitrogen available to the plants. That means of all these macronutrients, nitrogen is one of the most important macronutrient which is used by the plant in large amount or needed by the plant in larger quantity. That means soil fertility, as far as soil fertility is concerned, the nitrogen content in the soil must be more. Then this soil is commonly called as fertile soil. So in addition to this nitrogen, another macronutrients are also essential by the plant in larger quantities. For example, potassium, phosphate, etc. So if we cultivate the crops constantly in particular soil, plant utilize this available source of macro as well as micronutrients from the soil, and soil becomes nutrient deficient. So in order to provide the nutrients to the plant, farmers adds traditionally the different types of organic manures as well as the inorganic components in the form of synthetic fertilizers to the soils. So these organic and inorganic components which are added by the farmers to the soil for maintaining the level of NPK nutrients as well as another nutrients. So these organic and inorganic components added to the soil are commonly called as fertilizers. So mostly after green revolution, farmers are cultivating the hybrid varieties of the different crops, and farmers start to use large quantity of pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, and also farmers utilizes large quantity of synthetic fertilizers in order to get more yield. So by the use of this large quantity of synthetic fertilizers, yield of the crop plant definitely increases. So these synthetic fertilizers gives better results as far as the plant growth of the plant as well as yield of the crop plant is concerned. So as compared to organic manures or organic fertilizers, the synthetic fertilizers gives very fast result. So these organic manures are having less NPK content or macronutrient content. For example, if we use farm-made manure only, don't use any kind of synthetic fertilizers like NPK, then plant don't get adequate quantity of these nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, etc. That means as compared to organic manures, the synthetic fertilizers are showing fast result and better results as far as the yield of the crop plant is concerned. So due to excessive use of these synthetic fertilizers, soil salinization problems are created in many places. For example, on the banks of the rivers, generally sugarcane cultivation is done by the farmers. In most of the states where more water is available, sugarcane crop cultivation is done by the farmers, and due to flood irrigation, due to excessive watering and excessive use of the synthetic fertilizers, the soil becomes saline. We can't take any kind of crop in these saline soils. So this is the drawback of these synthetic fertilizers. That means another drawback of synthetic fertilizers is the synthetic fertilizers are not cheaper. Their costs are higher as compared to the organic fertilizers or biofertilizers. So farmers have switched over to another form of fertilizers commonly called as today biofertilizers. So what is the meaning of this term biofertilizers? So the worker agronomist Suparao in 1982 gives very simplest definition of this biofertilizer. Biofertilizers can be defined as the nutrient inputs of biological origin. Nutrient inputs of biological origin useful for plant growth. So this is the very simplest definition of biofertilizers. So nutrient inputs of biological origin useful for plant growth is nothing but the biofertilizers. So simply, biofertilizers, as far as biofertilizers are concerned, if we try to categorize these biofertilizers are of different categories. That means the microorganisms, especially microorganisms like bacteria, blue-green algae, especially members of Cyanophyta. Examples of this blue-green algae: Nostoc, Anabaena, Tolypothrix, Oscillatoria. So all these heterocystous algae are coming under the Cyanophyta division. So commonly these algae are called as blue-green algae. So this blue-green algae is also used as a biofertilizer. The bacteria, there are two types of bacteria: nitrogen fixing bacteria, symbiotic nitrogen fixing bacteria, and asymbiotic nitrogen fixing bacteria. The third category of biofertilizers, commonly known as mycorrhizal relationship. That means mycorrhiza is a relationship between some species of the fungi and roots of the higher plants. For example, if we take the Casuarina and observe the roots of this Casuarina, the fungal association is there in association of the root with this plant Casuarina, as well as many other plants, Eucalyptus, shows the association of this fungus, and this association between the fungal species with root system of higher plants is commonly called as a mycorrhizal relationship. Then some species of fungi, especially the Trichoderma fungus, is widely used throughout the world as an example of biofertilizers. That means the microorganisms like bacteria, blue-green algae, fungi are commonly used as a biofertilizers. In addition to this, some species of aquatic ferns, for example Azolla, this Azolla Anabaena association is very common. That means Anabaena is an example of cyanobacterium or blue-green algae member. So this Anabaena species lives happily with this Azolla, leaves of the Azolla. There is association between these two organisms, which is playing an important role in nitrogen fixation. That means, as far as the biofertilizers are concerned, different categories of biofertilizers are available throughout the world, and mostly today farmers are using these biofertilizers in order to increase the soil fertility and enhance the yield of the different types of crops cultivated by the farmers. Then one by one I am going to discuss the biofertilizers. So today I am going to discuss the bacterial biofertilizers. So these bacterial biofertilizers includes some species or some strains of the bacteria. For example, Rhizobium. So this Rhizobium bacterium is an example of symbiotic bacterium. Another bacterium is commonly known as Azotobacter. It is an example of asymbiotic bacterium. Then this Azospirillum, it is another type of bacterium. So these strains of the bacteria, symbiotic as well as asymbiotic bacteria, plays important role in the nitrogen fixation. So we are very familiar with this term nitrogen fixation. That means in the air or in the atmosphere, 78% nitrogen is available, but plants are unable to take this nitrogen, aerial nitrogen. Plant take the nitrogen in the form of nitrates, nitrites, ammonia, etc. Soluble form of nitrogen or usable form of nitrogen to the plant is nitrates, nitrites, ammonia, etc. So this conversion of aerial nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds like nitrates, nitrites, ammonia is carried out by these microorganisms like Rhizobium species, Azotobacter species, Azospirillum species, as well as other members of microorganisms like cyanobacteria member, blue-green algae members, mycorrhiza, etc. etc. That means this, as far as the bacterial biofertilizers are concerned, these members, Rhizobium, Azotobacter and Azospirillum, plays important role in conversion of atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogen nitrates, etc. or whichever form of nitrogen to the plant, and fertility of soil automatically increases. It is beneficial for the farmers to increase the yield of their crop plants. So, as far as the different strains of this rhizobium are concerned, the rhizobium different strains, different species of the rhizobium infect the specific crop plants. That means there is a specificity. Specific rhizobium strain inoculates the root system of leguminous, different or specific leguminous crops. So that means leguminous crops are very well known for presence of these root nodules on their roots, on their roots. So this root nodule contain this symbiotic bacteria like rhizobium. So this is a list of different species or different strains of the rhizobium which are responsible for infecting the different crop plants. Rhizobium trifoli, it shows association with clover. Rhizobium phaseoli, it shows association with beans. Rhizobium meliloti, it shows association with sweet clover. Rhizobium leguminosarum, it shows association with pea. Rhizobium lupine, it shows association with lupins. Rhizobium japonicum, it shows association with soybeans. Rhizobium species which are studied under the heading of cowpea group species of rhizobium, they generally show association with cowpea and peanut. So this list gives idea about which type of species of this rhizobium or which species of this or which strain of the rhizobium is showing association with the different crop plants. So how the process of nitrogen fixation begins? I have told you what is the meaning of this term nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation is simply, it is nothing but conversion of this aerial nitrogen into nitrate. So process of nitrogen fixation begins with the formation of root nodule. That means the root nodule formation when microorganisms like bacteria, this bacteria, Rhizobium bacterium, is a gram-negative bacterium. It is a microscopic bacterium. It is found in soil generally. It is also found rarely in water as well as air. So this bacterium, gram-negative bacterium, microscopic bacterium, which is found in soil, it infects the root system of the leguminous crop. That means when this bacterium comes in contact with the root system of any specific crop plant, it causes the infection to the roots. It enters in the roots, living tissues of the roots, and it multiplies. And in response to this, formation of such button-like or knot-like structures on the roots are developed. These are commonly called as root nodules. That means after infection to the roots by the bacteria, root nodule formation is the first step in the process of nitrogen fixation. Then secondly, the pigment leg hemoglobin is produced inside this root as well as in root nodule. So this leg hemoglobin pigment, which is synthesized, it plays important role in the absorption of O2. So this leg hemoglobin pigment which absorbs O2, it is supplied to the bacteria. So this conversion of this nitrogen into nitrate, requires the enzyme. The name of the enzyme is nitrogenase. So this rhizobium bacterium is responsible for synthesis of this nitrogenase enzyme, and this enzyme plays important role in the conversion of aerial nitrogen into nitrate. by the action of enzyme nitrogenase. So this nitrogenase production is controlled by NIP gene. Nitrogenase is the name of enzyme. The synthesis of this nitrogenase is controlled by this NIP gene. So in the genome of this rhizobium bacterium, the NIP gene is available, and because of this NIP gene in genome of nitrogen fixing bacteria like rhizobium, they can produce nitrogenase enzyme, and this nitrogenase enzyme is responsible for the conversion of nitrogen into nitrates, aerial nitrogen into nitrates. So this nitrogenase production is controlled by this NIP gene, and because of this NIP gene, nitrogen fixation process is possible. That means, as far as this rhizobium species are concerned, these rhizobium species which are growing in the root nodules of leguminous crops are studied under the heading of symbiotic bacteria. That means there is a relationship between this rhizobium bacterium with the root cells of these leguminous crops is beneficial for both organisms. That means this rhizobium bacterium fixes the atmospheric nitrogen which is taken by the roots of these leguminous plants. That means the leguminous plants are benefited from this bacterium by taking nitrogen which is produced by this rhizobium bacterium. While the root cells or root tissue, root provides shelter as well as food material to this rhizobium bacterium. That means both the organisms, root cells of the leguminous crops are benefited, as well as the rhizobium bacterium may also get benefited. So such kind of association is studied under the heading of mutualism. This kind of association is studied under the heading of mutualism. That means this symbiotic association between bacterium and root cells is an example of mutualism, because both organisms are benefited. So if we take the transverse section of this root nodule and observe under microscope, we can see easily this is the portion of root showing different layers: epidermis, hypodermis, cortex, endodermis, and central conducting tissue stand. And this conducting tissue stand of root is connected with this conducting tissue stand of the root nodule. So root nodule is a button-like knob-like structure arising from the root. So this root nodule at their center shows the many bacteria, granular bacteria under our light microscope. It is not easy to understand the nature of the bacteria. So we can also study this bacteria under high power as well as light emulsion lens also. So this rhizobium rod-shaped bacteria can be observed inside this root nodule. So this is the process of this nitrogen fixation. That means we know very well these bacteria are playing important role in conversion of aerial nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds. Then if we want to take the benefit of this bacteria, we must multiply the bacteria on the large scale and supply to the farmers. For this purpose, the mass cultivation of the bacteria is done in the laboratory, which is used for inoculation of the seeds. So what is the procedure? Very simple procedure is there for the mass cultivation. So for the mass cultivation of this bacteria in aseptic conditions, in controlled conditions, in laboratories, this yeast extract mannitol broth culture. What is the long form of this YEM culture? Yeast extract mannitol broth culture. So this is the culture medium which is generally used for culturing the bacteria under aseptic conditions in laboratories. So this medium, the bacterium which is isolated from the soil are cultured. Few number of bacteria are cultured on this yeast extract mannitol broth culture at 30 to 32 degrees Celsius temperature range. Then after 9 to 10 days, the maximum number of bacteria we can achieve when number of bacteria are multiplied on this artificial culture medium in aseptic conditions at appropriate temperature range 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. So this culture mixture, this culture of bacteria on this medium is mixed with the carrier like peat, lignite, farmyard manure and charcoal. Then it is filled in polythene bags and supplied to the farmers. So generally this Rhizobium culture is available in market in polythene bags. So this Rhizobium culture is generally used by the farmers for pre-sowing treatment of the seeds. That means before sowing the seeds, this Rhizobium culture is used for seed inoculation, and then the seeds are used for the purpose of sowing. So what are the benefits of using this Rhizobium biofertilizer? So as far as the benefits of this Rhizobium biofertilizer, there are 5 to 6 benefits of use of Rhizobium biofertilizer. Number 1, the seed germination process increases. This is the first benefit. Second benefit is seedling receives constant supply of nitrogen. Seedling supply of the nitrogen is made by this bacteria constantly to the young growing seedlings. This is the second benefit. Third benefit is soil fertility enhances, as well as humus status of the soil also enhances. Next benefit is, by the use of the biofertilizers like Rhizobium culture, we can save 15 to 20% nitrogen fertilizers. Nitrogen fertilizers are utilized by the farmers, used by the farmers, which are very costly. And if we use this Rhizobium culture to the soil, then we can save the 15 to 20% nitrogen fertilizers. Then next benefit is, if we use this biofertilizer like Rhizobium culture, disease resistance capacity of crop plant increases. That means plant becomes resistant to the different types of diseases caused by different agents, different pathogens like bacteria, viruses, fungi, etc. And last benefit of using this biofertilizer is increase in crop yield. So many workers reported the yield of the different crops after using this biofertilizer Rhizobium, near about 15 to 20% increase in yield in crop plant was reported. So if we use this biofertilizer like Rhizobium, it is beneficial for the farmers for maintaining the soil fertility, as well as saving the plant from diseases, as well as enhancing the yield of the crop plants. So that's all about this first example of biofertilizer under the heading of Rhizobium. So next time I would like to explain the remaining part of this topic, Azotobacter as a biofertilizer and Azospirillum as a biofertilizer. Thanks all.